Part 2. Did FDR pledge the American people's property to the Federal Reserve Trust? Understanding the corporate United States and the voluntary shift to servitude. The New Deal was more than a series of economic programs. It marked a profound legal and financial reorganization of the United States. Among its most controversial legacies is the claim that Franklin D. Roosevelt pledged the American people's property to the Federal Reserve Trust as part of a broader shift into a corporate structure for the United States. To understand this transformation, we must explore how the amendments following the Civil War, the creation of the Federal Reserve, and the voluntary acceptance of privileges fundamentally altered the original Republican form of government envisioned by the founders. The 13th Amendment. From physical bondage to voluntary servitude. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, marking a monumental step in ensuring freedom for all individuals. However, the abolition of physical bondage opened the door for a more subtle form of control: voluntary servitude. What is voluntary servitude? Under natural law, individuals have the right to contract freely. This freedom includes the ability to enter into agreements that may waive or subordinate their rights. By consenting to certain legal arrangements, individuals can unwittingly place themselves in a subordinate position, effectively opting into a system of servitude through contracts, licenses, and benefits. The New Deal's role. Programs like Social Security and federal welfare incentivized individuals to accept government-provided benefits, which came with strings attached. These benefits often required individuals to identify as participants in the federal system, effectively subordinating their sovereignty to federal jurisdiction. The 14th Amendment, the creation of federal citizenship. The 14th Amendment was ratified to ensure equal protection under the law, particularly for newly freed slaves. However, it also introduced a new legal concept: federal citizenship. State federal citizenship. Before the 14th Amendment, individuals were primarily citizens of their respective states, enjoying a republican form of government that respected their natural and common law rights. The 14th Amendment created a federal franchise of citizenship, which conferred privileges and protections under federal jurisdiction. The privileged role. While state citizenship was rooted in sovereignty, federal citizenship came with privileges that could be regulated. Sovereign men and women of all races were enticed into this new role, often without understanding the full implications of accepting federal benefits and protections. The Federal Reserve, a privileged private banking activity. The Federal Reserve System, established in 1913, represents a significant departure from constitutional monetary policy, control of public wealth. The Federal Reserve is a privately owned central banking system that operates under federal jurisdiction. Its creation centralized monetary control, allowing a private banking cartel to dictate the nation's economic policy. The bankruptcy of the corporate United States. In 1933, under Roosevelt, the corporate United States declared bankruptcy. This bankruptcy was not merely a financial reorganization, but a fundamental shift in how the government interacted with its people. The government's debt to the Federal Reserve was effectively placed on the shoulders of the American people, transforming them into sureties for this debt through their property, labor, and future earnings. The new corporate deal: privileges versus rights. The bankruptcy and subsequent reorganization of the United States led to the creation of a federal administrative state that operates largely under commercial law. This shift inverted the original relationship between the people and their government. From sovereign to subject, under the New Deal, the federal government began offering franchises and privileges, such as Social Security, driver's licenses, and business licenses, that required individuals to consent to federal jurisdiction. Regulation of natural rights. Many rights originally protected under natural and common law were reframed as privileges. For instance, the right to travel unencumbered was transformed into a regulated activity requiring a driver's license. By applying for such licenses, individuals entered into commercial contracts with the administrative state, thereby subjecting themselves to its regulations. The voluntary nature of the system. A critical but often overlooked aspect of this transformation is its voluntary and contractual nature. Consent through application. Most individuals unknowingly consent to federal jurisdiction by applying for benefits or licenses. For example, Social Security numbers. These numbers create a federal personality tied to the administrative state. Driver's licenses. These contracts presume the individual is engaging in commercial activity, such as transporting goods or passengers for hire. Unawareness of choice. Most people, including law enforcement officers, are unaware that participation in this system is voluntary. They assume that licensing and regulatory frameworks are mandatory, not realizing that they are only applicable to those who have consented to federal jurisdiction.
The presumption
of commerce and the need to rebut it. At the heart of this system is a presumption that individuals are engaging in commercial activity and therefore subject to regulation. Rebutting the presumption, sovereign men and women must understand their natural and common law rights to effectively rebut this presumption. For instance, right to travel. Traveling for personal purposes is a natural right protected under the Constitution. However, applying for a driver's license converts this right into a regulated privilege. Reasserting sovereignty. By challenging these presumptions in court and avoiding contracts that subordinate their rights, individuals can reclaim their sovereignty. Conclusion. A return to awareness. The transformation initiated by the New Deal, coupled with the amendments following the Civil War and the creation of the Federal Reserve, represents a profound reordering of American governance. The shift from a republic to an administrative state offering privileges under federal jurisdiction has led many to unknowingly exchange their natural and common law rights for government-regulated benefits. Understanding this history is crucial for reclaiming sovereignty. The system operates on consent, and individuals have the power to withdraw that consent by asserting their rights and refusing to participate in contractual arrangements that subordinate their freedoms. The question remains, will the people wake up to the voluntary nature of their servitude and reclaim the original deal of sovereignty they once forged under a republican government?